Hello, welcome back to Jonathan Investigates Women's Football, a channel where we discuss things that may not necessarily make the mainstream media, may not make the newspapers, may not be spoken about on TV, but to discuss subjects that I find equally as important and equally as interesting. Today I am joined by National League footballer Esme Harris. Esme, not only is she a footballer, she's a school teacher as well, and she's recently signed for Worcester City. Before Worcester City, she's played for Cheltenham, and where you guys might know a bit more about her, Stourbridge Football Club. Esme played over 100 games for Stourbridge, one of only 4 players to have ever done that. She got promoted 3 consecutive seasons and maintained Tier 3 status last year, and also captained the side for quite a few times as well. So as always, why do I want to speak to Esme now? Well, Esme has just signed for Worcester City. Worcester City is a Tier 4 side in the National League. A side that's really going from strength to strength, both on and off the field. I saw them a few times last season where they got promoted from Tier 5 to Tier 4. Fantastic setup there. And you can see that they're really building behind the scenes, and now they're building on the pitch as well. The addition of Esme Harris proves that. I want to hear what Esme has to say about Worcester, about her teammates, about the owner of Worcester City. I also want to go back a little bit further, and I want to hear about her thoughts on the summer of 2024 when she left Stourbridge at quite an emotional time. And also want to hear about in between, about her recovery from her knee injury. So plenty to get into. So let's hear what she has to say. Thank you for joining me, Esme Harris, formerly of Cheltenham, now at Worcester. I think a lot of people will know you from Stourbridge as well, but maybe under the name of Esme Moran. How is married life, Esme?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same, to be honest. I think the name change probably has been the biggest difference that I've kind of had to adjust to. Other than that, had a great had a great wedding day, had a great honeymoon, and then we were both immediately back and around by football. But yeah, quite consistent. It is just at work having being Mrs. Harris instead of Miss Moran, and then obviously football and announcements and stuff, and it looks just a bit different having a Harris instead of Moran, but just it's a nice different, not a bad different.
Yeah, I bet kind of gave it a good time, because if you was still at like your previous club, everyone would still see you as Moran, whereas because you was a brand new player at Cheltenham and now Worcester, they may not know you as Moran, had they only know you as a Harris. Does that kind of
Yeah,
help?
yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking because I thought with the timing of it as well, it's kind of like a whole new rebrand, new team, new
Yeah.
name, kind of coincided quite well, to be honest. So kind of, yeah, worked well.
Yeah, well, that leads me straight into the summer, really, of 2024. I think roughly, I think it was around about May the 5th. I think it was the first week in May. You played against Huddersfield. You probably knew at that point, when that game and that full-time whistle had blown, that was like the last time he was going to play for Stourbridge. There's quite a few options, I would have thought, that you had over the summer about your new team. I just want to kind of gauge like your mindset going into the summer, and obviously choosing what team, because obviously was you choosing like the location, was you choosing tiers, was you undecided to like the last minute because you was one of the later ones that was
Yeah.
publicly announced with the new team? What were your thoughts going into the summer?
It was really difficult, to be honest, because obviously there was a lot of people and a lot of my friends kind of going through the same thing. And I think a lot of us were just trying to work out what we want from football and kind of where our enjoyment is and what makes us enjoy football. Was it the location? Was it all those different things? Was it playing with your friends? Was it the level? And I really enjoyed tier three. And I did really enjoy the challenge that we had. Obviously, our aspiration was to stay up, and we achieved that. And I felt like kind of as the year went on, the whole team, not just myself as an individual, but I think the whole team kind of stepped up and started to get used to that level. So for me, I really wanted to stay in tier three. Across summer, I wanted to keep my fitness up. I wanted to just stay around there. I had trained with a couple of teams, trained with a couple of tier three teams, which is probably why I was one of the later ones as well, because I hadn't had this kind of situation since I've been about 15. You know, I was at Wolves, well, no, younger than that. I was at Wolves when I was about 13, 12, 13. Kind of just went up through the years there. Then from Wolves, went straight to Stoke. From Stoke, went straight to Stourbridge. So I'd never really had a transition of, I don't know where I'm playing. I've always known where I was going. So it was really strange. And I think, you know, a couple of the girls had similar situations where they were training at certain places and then had verbally signed, but then kind of had different things come up and they thought, you know what, they'd realised that it wasn't necessarily the level that they were looking for in football. It was more who they played with. So then obviously quite a lot of kind of my core friendship group at Stourbridge have ended up at Leafield, and obviously they're all playing together, they're doing really well. And that's what they realised. They realised a lot earlier than me kind of what they wanted. So I knew I wanted to be in tier three. It was just kind of working out who wanted me and was it feasible. And I genuinely, Cheltenham was brilliant. The setup's great, the people there are great. You know, there was genuinely nothing negative I could say about it. But for me personally, I think I realised as I went back to school in September, as I went back to work in September, and I was having to, you know, I get back from work quite late anyway. I was I'm a primary school teacher. I get back on a good day, 5 probably. So across summer training at Cheltenham, I had no qualms because I had nothing else to do during my day, which was brilliant. Then as I went back to school, kind of getting home, getting changed, having my tea in the car, travelling straight away to Cheltenham, which, you know, on a bad day is like an hour and 15 away, was quite um was quite a lot with a full-time kind of stressful, full-on job. I wish it was closer because it was brilliant for me, but yeah, that was kind of my thought process. So I was like, I want tier three, really want tier three, and kind of as things have progressed, I think it's kind of changed. My priorities have changed kind of alongside my workload as well at school. Um, but yeah, obviously Stourbridge was. I loved Stourbridge, not just because it was convenient, but it was 15 minutes around the corner and it was tier three. So it was a lot of things that worked really well for me. But that I think that was probably my main thought process was I wanted the level, I wanted the standards, I wanted to kind of keep up the standards that I felt like I'd developed last year. So that was my main criteria, I would say.
Yeah. And it's a new league as well, isn't it? So even though it was tier three, it was tier three south. So it's a little bit exciting getting to know new players that you may not have even heard of, let alone played with before. So can totally understand that. Absolutely. Yeah. With the travel, you know, you live in tier three north, don't you? So to
Yeah,
play in tier three south, you know, you'd have to
yeah.
travel all that way just to a home game, let alone the away game. So I do thoroughly understand. After spending so long at one club, Stourbridge, was it hard to adjust to try and like find a new home, or did you kind of settle in right away? Or because obviously every club is different, but having been set in your ways for 6 years, I think was it 6 years you were at Stourbridge?
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6, yeah. So you know, you was there for quite a long time, and it becomes a routine. You know what to expect. There's hardly ever any surprises. Whereas obviously when you go to a brand new club, you know, was it hard to settle, or did you adapt to it? Okay.
I think I've I think since leaving Stourbridge, it's been hard to settle, kind of no matter where you are. I think what I realised quite quickly was I was like, I want tier three, I want tier three. Signed at tier three, and I'd obviously trained at tier three, like I said, like at a couple of clubs, and a lot of it was quite consistent with what Stourbridge had done. So in terms of like the facilities and things like that, it was all kind of familiar. I kind of knew the routines, like
Yeah.
TheraBands, tracker vests, all that stuff I was kind of used to. It was more the social side that I think I had to get used to because obviously at Stourbridge, because I'd been there so long, every year when we have new players join, I was kind of the person that, well, one of the people, obviously not just me, but people would say like, "Oh, Ez, can you welcome this person?" Because obviously I kind of knew what would happen, like, and I knew it front and back. Um, so to then be that person and to go on my own as well, and not have, you know, my friends around me who didn't realise I'd relied so much on as well in my football was really like it was it was difficult. And I think especially then when I got injured, well, I say when I got injured, realistically we all know that I've been injured for about a year. I just wasn't telling myself that. I was telling myself I'd had a knock and that it was all going to be fine. But actually when I realised at Cheltenham that my knee wasn't good and it was hurting to drive and it was hurting to go up and down stairs. I thought, you know what, I need to step back and I need to sort this out. And having it been so far as well, I'd said to Tom, the manager, I said, look, I'm going to do my physio with my physio in Hales Owen. It's 5 minutes round the corner. And that he knows kind of all my history of injuries as well. And like the physio and the support that I got from Cheltenham throughout that time of injury was brilliant. Like, again, couldn't have asked for more. It was just the travel and the scheduling of it. I thought, you know what, I'll do this at home. And then when I was kind of in a position where I thought I can get back into being around the girls and being around training and being around match days, well, it's been half the season that I've missed because it's just taken so long to get my knee somewhat sorted. So it really was. I really did struggle to have that transition from Stourbridge to a new team, and I do think a lot of the girls who have left Stourbridge, I mean, I can't speak for them, but kind of with conversations that I've had, like with friends and with other people, I don't think that was like just a me thing. I think the biggest difference that I had in comparison to everyone else was not, well, again, maybe not everyone else, not too sure, but from what I've seen, is that they kind of settled in pre-season and have had that consistency of training every week, matches every week, whereas I had pre-season, which was brilliant, really enjoyed it. Went back to work in September, season started, injured for 3 months. So it now feels like my season's only just kind of started and it's kind of only just started to like hit the ground running a little bit. So I think that's probably where my experience has varied to other people who are probably in a similar boat as I was.
You touched on your injury there, and obviously I wanted to ask you now, how are you now? So obviously you just signed for your new club. It's quite open on social media that you have had this knee injury and you've gone through your recovery sessions. What are your recovery sessions like? And how are you now? Are you ready to get back on the pitch again?
Yeah, I've been training for couple of weeks now, probably like December. I've probably been fitter, as in probably could have gone back to training in November, but just kind of had lots of different things kind of getting in the way and life and fitness, and also I think as well a little bit of me not trusting my knee necessarily.
Mhm.
It was when it was bad, it was really in a place of like I was waiting for it to give way kind of at any second. And I also think as well, subconsciously in the back of my mind, I think about women's football and I think about knees and my brain just goes straight into a panic. So um yeah, I'm excited to be back on the pitch. I'm kind of ready. Like I said, this is kind of the start of my season now, which has been quite unfortunate, but also I am really excited. Knee is better. I wouldn't necessarily say it's 100%, but I'm no longer playing with that tape that looked ridiculous on my knee. So that's good. My aim is to keep it that way. I don't want to be relying on tape anymore because I don't think that was necessarily the healthiest thing for me. Um, but yeah, I'm doing a lot of, well, as much strengthening as I can without causing pain. It doesn't like to be worked too much. It still doesn't enjoy AstroTurf, which is not ideal because everyone loves AstroTurf except for my knee. Um, but now I'm just kind of focusing mostly on trying to get my fitness back. My fitness was something I really like had pride about. I've always kind of viewed myself as someone who I might not have the same technical ability as other people on the ball, but I know I'll work hard and I know that like I might win the ball and I can just give the ball to the people who will do some exciting things. Just still don't think I've completely lost. I think sometimes I'm maybe a bit too hard on myself, but now it's kind of trying to get myself back to the fitness that I know that I did have when I was in tier 3 and hopefully try and bring some of that into tier 4, which would be quite exciting.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you can't be too hard on yourself. You have spent like about 18 months in tier three. When you was in tier four, with all due respect, you almost walked that league in the end by 10 clear points. So, you are used to those levels. So if you can get back to those levels, then obviously you should be flying into, for Worcester, shouldn't you? So I really hope that you get there, and I'm sure you will. I
Thanks.
want to dig deep into Worcester, but just on a bit of an outsider's point of view, when you hear, okay, where's Esme going to go? It's very easy to say potentially Worcester because obviously you've got a bit of history there with like the university and your friends there. And was did sentimentality kind of come into that decision? I'm sure there's a lot more that we'll get into why you did choose Worcester, but sentimentality wise, was that a part of it?
Yeah, it definitely was. I'd been in contact with a couple of teams again just to I felt like I wanted to give myself the best chance at finding somewhere that kind of would be that new home. I didn't want to go somewhere that didn't feel very me and then be in the same situation in a month's time. I've never really liked to be someone who was at a club for a short amount of time. I think my shortest one was Stoke, which was a year, which even then it's still a season. So I really wanted to find somewhere that was right for me. And obviously talking to Jess Bate, who has really been enjoying her football. She's enjoyed it since she's gone. She's kind of not looked back. And has sang Worcester's praises like from the get go. Knowing Jess and knowing some of the girls from uni like Shona and Kirsten, who I know obviously are already there, like it felt like a easy one to step into. Not that it's like, not in terms of the team, but in terms of the club, because I knew people there. Like I said, that was something that I did kind of struggle with at Cheltenham, was not knowing the girls. And I mean, luckily they all turned out to be brilliant and wonderful people, who completely welcomed me with open arms. But knowing that I knew people at Worcester, that was definitely like it ticked a box, because I knew that I could go there, and I knew that I just had someone to talk to. And I also knew that I have someone who, thankfully, to Jess, that I can share lifts with. Um, so there was a lot of like sentimentality in it. I love Worcester as a place. It's where we got engaged as well, which is also just another little, yeah. So it does hold like a little special place in my heart, for uni and for football and just in general of the place. And also, my dad absolutely loves Worcester. Every time we've gone and played at Six Ways, he's always been like, oh, Worcester's brilliant, brilliant setup.
Yeah.
He told me on my way to my first training session to Worcester, 'cause he gave me a lift because my car had broke. He said that when Cheltenham played against Worcester, he bought a little Worcester badge, but he didn't tell me because he didn't want me to be mad that he hadn't bought anything Cheltenham. He did buy a Cheltenham hat in the end. But my dad has always been in Worcester's corner a little bit as well, just saying how brilliant the setup is and stuff. So sentimentally, it was definitely a factor.
Yeah, I totally agree on the Worcester. The area is fantastic. I go there about once every 3 or 4 weeks to visit a friend, and there is places out there as well where you can, eat and drink, and it's just a lovely area full of lovely people as well. So I
Yeah.
totally agree on that. My thoughts on Worcester. The first time I went to Worcester to watch a game, I think it was last year, International Women's Day. Worcester was against Knoll, and I think Worcester was pretty much one game away from clinching the title. We went Friday night, so it was the first time I went there, and it was at Six Ways. So of course, they didn't always play at Six Ways, but they did on that occasion, and it was a fantastic turnout. I think there was about 400 to 500 people there. One of the gladiators was there. I'm sorry, I don't know
Oh
now.
yeah,
I
it
don't
was.
watch it.
I want to say it was like Diamond or something. Something
Yeah,
like.
that rings a bell. Yeah, I don't know if you was there, Esme, but I was there that day, and it was just a fantastic environment. And you hear this word "family club" banded around quite a bit, but that really was. And the reason why I say that is because the girls and the parents was all singing and dancing. There was one girl at the front with pom poms starting the cheerleading off, and like all the other girls in the crowd and all the other parents in the crowd was encouraging it all. And that was a very family orientated scenario. The MC who was introducing everyone had life in her, bubbly.
Yeah,
I've
she's
done
brilliant.
yeah. I've done radio commentary there with Switchsport Radio with Kev, and as soon as I walked in, there was someone almost basically waiting for us and greeted us,
Oh,
showed us around. Everything. You can really see that they're really grateful of every bit of support, but also they're not just grateful; they actually act upon it. They interact, even on social media. If you respond, they'll react, and they'll, or even not on the official account, they might do it on a personal account as well. So, but yeah, and that's not even mentioning like what's going on the pitch. So, yeah, fantastic to see them promoted last year. I think they thoroughly deserve it. It was quite quiet, I thought, over the summer on social media. I was waiting for a few things to, really pop off. I think they got that National League badge now, so I thought, potentially they could have done even more. But it's appeared that they waited, and now they're in a good position where they're looking like they're going to be a stable tier 4 side for at least another 18 months. It looks like that they're really going strong now. So thoroughly hats off to Worcester, and I always applaud them to all my friends from a neutral perspective. Esme, just before you joined the club and you was there just watching as maybe a football fan, what were your thoughts before you actually signed for Worcester regarding from a fan's perspective?
I remember So the one game that I actually did manage to play for Cheltenham, despite my knee, was the Cheltenham against Worcester, and obviously Worcester did end up winning. As much as
Yes.
Jess would remind me. Um, and I remember, this is so silly, when they scored. I remember obviously it was dark at that point, and the floodlights light up in a W. And I remember
Oh,
looking at it's cool. I remember looking at it and thinking that's really cool. As I was really annoyed, obviously, but I remember looking at lights being like, yeah, that's quite cool. And obviously playing at six ways I think is brilliant. And from obviously from before I had signed, and I think especially since Nicole's taken over, which I think was in 2020, I think. Um, it's always looked like a really ambitious club, and from the outside it's always looked like they're doing the right things how I believe that women's football kind of should be. You know what I'm like. I'm a massive advocate for women and girls football. So seeing it done properly and seeing it done thoroughly and kind of not cutting corners and promoting it and giving experiences to young girls, and I just think is everything that women's football should be. So that definitely did draw me towards it. And then every time I've gone to watch, it's just always felt very happy. It's like,
mhm.
despite the result, it's always felt like they're always like really like a tight knit group, and they really appreciate their fans. And I was talking to Nicole the other day, and she was saying about how, she's always took pride in the fact that I think their attendances have always been around about 200, and that was when they were in tier five.
Yeah.
Um, so they've always had quite a following, and you can really see that connection between the players and the following that they have. Um, and I think that's also repaid through, you can kind of see their appreciation through the amount of opportunities that they do give to the community, and they do give to other people who do support them. Little things like having Worcester City women merchandise. It's not really something that you see done in tier four, and potentially in some tier three teams. I completely understand that obviously financial, you know, not preferences, but financial priorities
Restrictions. Okay.
will kind of like be different for different clubs. But I think something like that is just something so important to just, it's a walking advert. It gets your name out there. It shows people that Worcester City Women is there, and that it's there to be supported if you wanted to. Um, but yeah, and all the things that I thought about from the outside have kind of been met and exceeded since joining Worcester as well. So it's been really nice.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And I'm glad you mentioned Nicole because she is the owner, the CEO of Worcester City. You mentioned that you spoke to her quite recently. I mean, is she in and around the club quite a bit then? Do you get a chance to see her, or is she like just like someone that comes in every now and again? What's the relationship like from that high up to the players?
So when I spoke to Matt, obviously the manager, and he asked me if I was ready slash willing to sign, I said yes. So then he said, okay, great. He said we had training in the evening. I think it was like a Thursday, and he said Nicole would usually be at training, but she's not very well. But he said she'll give you a call this afternoon, and she did. She gave me a call a couple hours later and spoke to her on the phone for, I think it was like a good 45 minutes, just talking women's football, talking Worcester, kind of talking about what I can bring and things like that. Um, and then I think since then she's still been poorly, because that was obviously a couple of weeks ago. So I don't actually know, but from what she was saying, it does sound, and from what the girls were saying, I do think she is in and around training and in and around the girls quite a lot. I think she's there on match days, um, pretty much all the time. Um, and from, like I said, from what the girls have said, that communication and that kind of relationship really seems to be prevalent in and amongst the team and the girls, which I think is so important to kind of see the person who, I mean, first of all, so that the girls can kind of give gratitude back and kind of
Mhm.
show appreciation to Nicole, but for also Nicole to see what the girls are doing and what we're doing, and kind of showing that the vision is working. Um, but it's really nice to have, and it's nice to, in performances and in training and stuff, to want to show someone that like you're working hard, you're trying to do all the right things to kind of try to succeed for a common goal, which I think is really important.
I think what strikes me there is that she's a fan of what she's doing. You know, she feels like a part of it, and it's not just a tick box. It's something that she really wants, that she's passionate about. And yeah, I can thoroughly get on board with that, and I'm not surprised to hear that, even though I don't know much about her. I know a bit about Worcester, and obviously she's kind of created this over the last 5 years. So I can see why her name gets mentioned quite a lot, which is great to hear. We mentioned 6 ways, and obviously now just to carry on building, I think it's really important that the fan base obviously increases and continues to grow, and you have got that community there. I feel that the community is there. Do you see like potentially with like results on the pitch this season there we can continue to grow even more, and how can Worcester go about doing that, because it's such a lovely stadium. It's got a nice bar area. It's got mascots. It's got an atmosphere. It's got very welcoming people. It's all set up to really grow the attendance as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, it's been a tough season this year for them because, similar to how it was at Stourbridge, the aim is to just stay up and consolidate.
Mhm.
Obviously, we were trying to stay up and consolidate in 3, and they're trying to stay up and consolidate in 4. So, and that's always going to be a difficult thing to do. To get promoted and beat a team, well, beat 2 teams that are already in that league, which I think is really difficult. But from what when me and Nicole were talking, the commitment of fans and the attendances haven't dropped, which I think is really important. We were talking about how important it is to kind of build a team and build a club around success, not just on the pitch.
Mhm.
Um, and I hate to say it to you, but we use the example of Man U, how obviously recently results kind of haven't been, I mean, except for Liverpool, but results haven't been going their way. Um, and you see certain fans and certain people completely throwing toys out the pram. This isn't the team that I supported, this, that, and the other. Any team at any point can win a game, and that's brilliant. That's why we all love football. But to be able to have a team that might not win but still have the support and still have the backing and the, like you said, the resources of 6 ways, and to have a group that's tight knit despite results, I think is one of the most important things that you can develop in football. Because results will come. Like I said, it's football, kind of things change, results will come. You work hard, the harder you work together and the more kind of motivated you are as a group on and off the pitch, I think just the more success that you can have go into any game. And I think because of that, attendances and kind of backing from fans and from the community, I think is only ever going to increase. I think if we continue to do the things well that we are doing and kind of getting the recognition for, I think that attendances and support is only going to grow, which I think will be brilliant for the club. I think it's absolutely everything that they all deserve.
It's really going to be interesting to see how Worcester develops. It's there. They've not reached their ceiling yet. I don't believe so. It's really exciting to see that it's in that tier 4 is getting so strong. And I say it on every show, on every platform that I'm on. But that league is so tough, and it's going to be even stronger next year. I can't wait to follow it for the remainder of this season, but even more next season. I'm looking forward to every club. Every club, I believe, in that league is just going to get stronger and stronger. So,
Yeah.
yeah, fantastic competition. You mentioned about it being like a close knit. Talk to me about like how the players welcomed you. Then, so I know obviously Jess Fastnage has been there a long time. How about the rest of the teammates? How was the initial welcome?
They were so lovely. It was so nice. It's always awkward, isn't it, when you like rock up to somewhere and obviously I knew a couple of the girls, so that was great. That did settle me kind of initially, and I turned up with Jess Bate, which was also nice to kind of have that one person. I said to her, I said I'm going to be like your shadow this training session. Pretty much did follow around everywhere, but there was no need to really. Genuinely, they're all such lovely girls, and there was no animosity. There was no kind of who's that person? And there was quite a few trialists at training that day. Obviously, I'm not the only signing that they've signed. There were quite a few new players, and it didn't, I mean, I don't think that there was any kind of negative emotion from anyone towards the fact that there were quite a few kind of new faces at training. Um, they there's no like clickiness, there's no separate groups. It's just genuinely just a group of really lovely people, which is really kind of nice to just go into. And it meant that I felt confident on the ball. I felt comfortable to kind of play the football that I play. I didn't feel like I had to pass to certain people. I didn't feel like I had to make certain choices. It just felt really kind of freeing to just be myself and play the football that I wanted to play.
Yeah, I understand. I do. Yeah. For the people at home, I'm going to put a picture on screen for you guys now. Esme, I sent you the photo a little bit earlier. It's got a photo of you and Jess Bates, and two former teammates at Stourbridge who now play for Leafield, which could potentially be your first game. It's Worcester
Yeah.
against Leafield coming up. Um, I just want to know your thoughts when you see that photograph, because obviously a lot of things happened in the summer, and I would say that the West Midlands other teams away from Stourbridge have very much got stronger over the summer, and to see that photo now is kind of split up with Leafield and Worcester. Just what are your thoughts when you look back at that photograph?
I It's quite like fond actually, because obviously I absolutely loved playing football with it was all my friends, literally all of my friends were at the same place at once, which I mean, first of all, made kind of meeting up with your friends quite convenient, because you have to see them 3 times a week, but also, we'd played with each other for so long. I think Hannah joined the year after me, Soph and Jess. So we'd played football together as a group for 4 or 5 years. So it was really kind of, it just fell into place. We never really had to wonder about what the other person was doing on the pitch, 'cause we just knew. It's sad that we're not all together anymore. But also it is quite nice that we're not split up more than we already were before. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing them. The one thing that I am nervous about, which I haven't actually spoken to them about yet, is whenever we were in training and we were doing like 1v1s or any type of you're running at a person and they've got to defend, we can't take ourselves seriously. We just laugh, we just giggle. And I'm really worried if I end up running like, against Hannah or against Soph, that we're just gonna end up laughing and no one we're not gonna, and I'm really telling myself like it's a football match. Get it out your head that they're your friends. Like you need to just, focus on the game, focus on the result. Um, but I am concerned that we're gonna end up giggling. Me and Jess were saying the other day what we're quite lucky with is that Hannah and Soph are the most easygoing, polite, nicest people that you could ever wish to meet. So no matter which way the result goes, we know that there won't be any animosity, there won't be any bitterness, which is always nice to know that even though we are all four very competitive people, I think we're just looking forward to playing each other and seeing
Yeah,
each other, and it'll be a good experience, be a good game, and be my debut at home, which I'm really looking forward to as well, if the weather holds
absolutely.
off.
Yeah. I thought you was going to say he was concerned about injuring each other, not laughing about each other.
No, no.
Brilliant. Yeah. Look, thank you for joining us today. As just before you go, if there's one person that you think I should interview, someone around the FA Women's National League, doesn't have to be a player, or even the regional leagues as well. Is there anyone that you could recommend?
Um, I think I'll go for one Worcester and one non-Worcester.
Okay.
Worcester has to be Jess Fass. Her football knowledge and kind of the experience that she has and the amount that she does both on the pitch and off the pitch for Worcester is kind of something that I think is really, I really look up to her for, because she is very hardworking. And Matt said to me before one of our first conversations, he said, Jess, if you cut her open, she'll bleed blue. She absolutely adores Worcester, and I think is such a big part of the success that they have had and will continue to have in the future. So definitely think Jess Fass, and then I'll also go for Emma from Cheltenham, because again she's had an incredible career, really successful career across tier three, and is continuing to have a successful career with their game tomorrow, fourth round against Wolves, which will be
Yeah.
really exciting. And also Emma is hilarious, so I'm sure you'll have some laughs with it as well.
Absolutely. Look, thank you very much for joining us, Esme. I really do appreciate it, and the very best of luck in your debut game, your new team. So, thank you, Esme, and I'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Esme, for joining me on today's show. Things that stick out in my mind there is just literally how happy she does feel now. She seems quite settled and quite positive, and I know that she hasn't even played a game for Worcester yet, but you can really see the enthusiasm in playing with a new teammate. It's a bit close to home for her. She did reference Cheltenham being quite a distance away. coming back from injury as well. Hopefully, all that's 100%. And yeah, I think it's all about that homely feeling. She also mentioned that being a part of Stoke, she was there for 1 year, but ever since then she's been a Stourbridge, and she's not one for bouncing around clubs. She wants to be at a place where you can call home, and there's not too many nicer places in the Six Ways Stadium for a place to call home, is there? So really impressed with what she had to say, and also really value the honesty that she gave as well. I appreciate the 2024 summer was very difficult for a lot of people, and her more than most would have felt a lot of passion and emotion throughout those few months. And it took her a while to choose Cheltenham. I remember, I think she was the last one to announce where she was going, and that must have been a very tough decision. She gave her reasons why. She felt like she still wanted tier three, and she managed to get that, didn't she? But due to her knee injury, now was the right time to really rest and recover it, and that's now Worcester's gain. So really can't wait to get to Worcester and watch Esme play along with a friend Jess Bate as well, someone that I know well. So really looking forward to doing that, and maybe you can hear me on commentary, Switch Sport. I know Radio Kevin Moore, who who manages Switch Sport, loves to commentate at that stadium as well. So really can't wait to get in there and get to know a few more people as well, because it sounds like a fantastic club. So thank you very much, Esme, and best of luck for the rest of the season.